How's it? There's a photographer who I guarantee, like at least 80% of people who are watching this video have never heard of, but he is so cool. And I only discovered him because I saw his photographs and went, that is like the most creepy, disturbing, weird thing ever. And then when I saw his name, Ralph Eugene Meatyard, I was just like, oh, come on, this is like perfect. This is a weird character. I forget when I first came across Ralph Eugene Meatyard. Must have been about maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And immediately it was kind of like, oh, I love these photographs because they appealed to that kind of gothic-ness in me, the ex-art student, what have you. And the fact they can just creep people out. It's like a million miles away from the nice, picture squeak kind of things that you see. There's a disturbing element to all of these photographs, particularly like someone like this. Look at this, look at that. That's, if we can hold it up there so everybody can see. That is just, people in abandoned buildings, faceless, wearing masks, blurs. There's something about all of this. It has like a kind of a Blair Witch found footage kind of vibe to it. And before I realized that Ralph Eugene Meatyard is actually his real name, I thought, wow, this is somebody doing an art project that's really getting under the skin of somebody. These photographs have a hauntingness to them. And I think there's something in here from his approach of using the dolls, of using this kind of half glimpsed world, bits of randomness, and especially often like younger people as well, because there's something extra weird about that. Now, at this point, you might be going, well, this is just kind of ickiness for ickiness' sake, and it's just general weirdness. It's not really photography. And I thought, well, this is somebody out on the fringes. Ralph Eugene Meatyard, come on, look at the name. I'd never heard any books mention him, what have you. But then I went on to the Wikipedia article that he has. I'll link to it below. And I love this. He is born in Normal, Illinois. That's a chap called Meatyard. I was thinking, born in Normal. That's awesome, right? It is just properly like kind of cool. Like 1925. Here's, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Meatyard. Here's your child. But he ends up moving to, where is it? Lexington in Kentucky. And I've always found like the southern parts of the States, what have you, especially like pictures from that sort of 1960s sort of period with lots of tumble down things. They evoke a feeling and a mood in me that Ralph seems to have tapped into there. This kind of spookiness, this weird thing of like cicadas kind of chirping away there, and you're not supposed to be here because there's some sort of weirdness. I love all of that, and yet it seems at very odds at the chap himself. From what I can gather, as I said on his Wikipedia, he's taking photographs, with a camera club. I could imagine how they would have sort of gone down with these. He's going to workshops by people who've been running like Minor White. He's into Zen philosophy. Look at those sort of contradictions. Minor White is or at least it was a photographer who was very active in sort of the academic side of photography, thinking about it as like a very serious art form, all that kind of stuff. And he doesn't strike me as the sort of person who would have gone, go get some masks, embrace the weirdness, go crazy, do all this kind of thing. And yet, here's Ralph Eugene Meatyard doing his thing. Another aspect that's really interesting here on his Wikipedia article is that saying he exhibited with photographers including Edward Weston, Ansel Adams, the aforementioned Minor White, Aaron Siskid, Harry Callahan, Robert Frank. Now, whether or not these are all in the same exhibition or something, which is probably not true at all, or they just happen to be in the same gallery at the same time, it doesn't matter. This is somebody who's there being exhibited at round about the same time as all these greats, and yet he seems to have slipped through the cracks. So as you are looking at these photographs of Ralph Eugene Meatyard, some sort of bizarre fantasy weirdness from the deep south. Think about this. He was described as a bookish Zen master who served as president of the local PTA and the Little League, and who flipped burgers at 4th of July parties. Just goes to show that there might be within all of us just a little bit of weirdness that if we can tap into, we can create a very interesting set of photographs. Now, speaking of interesting sets of photographs, I have been asking people every week through my newsletter to submit photos on a theme. And we're going to go and have a look at some of them now and find all the positive things that you guys are doing in your photos. Right. Okay, so welcome to my little office. And what we're going to be doing now is taking a look at some of the photographs that people have submitted in the spirit of their hometown. So something that is unique to their hometown that sort of sums it up for us. And these aren't like full-on hardcore critiques, but more like thinking about what's positive about the picture, what can be improved upon, and and laying a solid foundation for people to grow. So first up, we have this bridge by B. Bromer from Joliet. I think this is Joliet in Illinois, Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. I love the bridge. What a kind of cool bridge. It's got this weird sort of architecture. Now, I have to admit here, I have seen this bridge before because Bill is a member of our tribe. So I've seen some details of this in the past. But I love the structure itself. I think there's a lot of interest in there. And having a wider shot, I don't know if this is necessarily the best wide shot that it could be. I can see what you're trying to do. You've got some leading lines, sort of a bit of foreground interest. It brings up and you move across and all that kind of stuff. But I'd love to see more made of the bridge itself. Its structure, right? Not the detail images that I've seen previously, but the fact that it is a wickedly awesome photograph. And I think you could get something, it's a subject for a photograph. And I think you could get something in there that is a lot stronger than this. So Bill, obviously this is your hometown. Go back, explore it, try and find the personality of the bridge. What we have right now is a passport photo of the bridge. Let's find its personality. I think that'd be pretty cool. But thank you very much. So this is a C. Fenton, and I'm sort of looking at this, and one of the things I love about these photographs is that initially I'm kind of like, oh, this is America, right? But then it's not, because I can say there's French in there. Marche-Parle. So where is this? Is this Canada? Is this Quebec? Something like that. The houses certainly feel like that. But that's by the by. I get a sense and a food. I get a mood, a feeling from this picture. The black and white. I think I would be tempted to photograph this in color. I can see where the colors and stuff, but the black and white makes it feel. It just makes it feel. And I like that quietness. It makes it this small town feel. If you look out into the background, like over here, out over here, there's nothing. There's little kids, little kids' playground, and there's this stop, and it's just this road. One of the things that I do like about this is it's a very matter of fact picture, but I feel that it could be like this house in the corner is it's there or it isn't there. It's something like that. It's a small little nitpicky thing, but I wonder if you didn't focus. Somebody, our chap Nick Carver from the west coast of the States, he does a very good job of isolating this kind of feeling, I think. And if you go and you look at some of his work, you'll find some inspirations, I think, in terms of like a compositional element, just to make it have a little bit more stillness. But I think you've done a fantastic job of conveying that stillness. Flat level horizon, up and down verticals. Those strong lines, right? They just make everything. See, like there's strong line, strong line, strong line, strong line. It just centers everything. It makes it feel very static, and that's a good thing in this particular photograph. Cool. Siva Hagen. So this is again I'm not even going to begin to pronounce because my French pronunciations are awful. So this is, I think a bit more on the nose. It's like my hometown. It's this is the underground, or the metro, or wherever it is. I'm not quite sure. Somebody in the comments will know where this is. What a quite interesting thing. There's seats in the middle. You got these dustbins, the tulips on there, which means that I was going to say it's Holland, because it's not. It can't be Holland if it's Rue something or other. Again, it's that quietness. See, there's these lines. There's this feeling that all these lines just make everything still. Then you kind of you bend them with a little bit like this, so that it doesn't feel like it's a completely static image. The previous photograph felt a little bit static, in a good way, but here it's like it's got a little bit of movement, a little bit of color, a little bit of life. I don't want to say it's like a liminal space kind of thing, because I mean obviously it is, right? But it's that little splash of color. Same with the bins, that I think makes it feel a little bit more welcoming. And I'm sure loads of people who would look at this daily and not even consider taking a photograph. The only things that kind of like just bug me just a little bit, it's, I think with the cropping, you want to get rid of sort of this area over here, and that, and the line on the right hand side. I think that would be good to get rid of. Just tighten it up a little bit. But apart from that, I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. It's right up my sort of street as well. Okay, all right. So de-regger. Okay, so initially you sort of look at this and you go, oh, it's a bit of spot coloring action going on, which I have to say I'm not a huge fan of. But then of course you look at this and it's not spot color. It does feel like maybe there's a little bit of sort of color manipulation going on and stuff like that. But it's quite cool, right? Especially with the fact that it's got this chap sitting on this bull or whatever it is, and he's got this red top on, and everybody's sort of walking by and what have you. So I can see where you're going with this. I see like you're making an idea. In the middle, it's all, you've got that flow coming through. You're trying to center something out and then give a bit of framing or what have you. And sort of making the subject himself pop a little bit more. As much as I think you're going in the right direction, I don't know if the color treatment that you put on it is quite right. Something doesn't feel so really kind of. It just feels off. And that's and I think it's the fact that this red feels really bright compared to other stuff, but not a deep red, and that's a bit of a shame, because I think if you revisit this idea, the idea is great, that you have somebody sitting on this bull's head and there's a very strong kind of interesting shape, this bull's head with, and normally having things people's head doesn't work, but it's almost like a fishing hook, like an anchor. If you went back to this, and rather than having this somewhat deep depth of field, if you had somebody sitting on this and it was only that plane, obviously I can't do a plane in 3D, right, and everything else, right, here is shallow depth of field, then I think then it would be a lot stronger photograph, because at the moment you've got the idea, but it's competing against everything else in the background. But yeah, thank you for that. All right, talking of metros, Iver. What a cool underground station. So futuristic looking. This wide angle approach, so it's like it feels really expansive along the bottom. It's got lots of space up the top, and just an emptiness in there as well. I wonder how many tubes you had to wait to get this emptiness. It's nice, it's clean, it's fresh. I think it's very simplistic in terms of the color scheme, which is absolutely making it work. I was in the tube recently, down London, and it doesn't work. It doesn't have this feeling, not least because we don't have side-by-side platforms like this. But it's usually quite dark and it's quite grey. And Vienna was a similar thing as well. So the fact that this is light and bright, it feels like it's Star Wars, doesn't it? It's like a Star Wars kind of vibe, you know, all the white and the black and what have you. I think in terms of like just, you know, the overall picture, it's great. You know, I'd be interested to see what you think you could do again to make it a little bit stronger. But you know, as a basic, I've sent you anything that I would sort of suggest with this is just starting to be a bit nitpicky, and I don't think it'd be. I think it's a good one. Yeah, cool. All right. Also Manuel. I know Manuel Lewis. He was in a previous cohort and what have you. And this, I like this kind of you know, this water feature. I think the choice of shutter speed here is correct. If it's very long, then everything becomes a bit more, you know, see the water coming down here, everything becomes really indistinct. And I can, and so having the right shutter speed, which I think you've chosen here, where it's got some motion, but then also it's still got some quality to it. It's still got some texture, some feeling, some weight to it. Really works nicely. And especially with what's going on in the water here, if this all blurs out down the bottom, then it becomes just an open, not open mess, but it becomes flat. But here it's got some it's got some interest in there, and I really like that. I like the colors. It feels cool, even though like it might be tempted to go to the opposite end of the spectrum and make it feel whiter, lighter, warmer. The composition, I'm kind of in two minds. I see this like this, you know, there's some interesting water that come down here, and it was all sort of going into the middle of this, and then you have the steps sort of leading down, and you've got obviously this little stepway that you can walk around and maybe sit there, you know. But for some reason, I don't know, it feels not quite right. Maybe because this whole chunk over here is rather than leading, everything's leading into the middle, the thing in the middle, right? But what's happening is here, this is kind of like, even though it's going down, it feels like it's leading off. It's a tiny little sort of thing. I don't think it's like a major sort of thing to be sort of worried about too much. But it's just, yeah, it's one of those things when you see a picture and you're like, something doesn't quite fit right. And I think also the color, the fact that you've gone to shoot a color, absolutely, I think is the right choice. So Mark Mahoney. Mark's also a member of our TP tribe, and so I know a bit of his background. Obviously, he's kind of more a sort of news, photojournalism sort of background, what have you. And I think it's an interesting choice. You know, so I was going to say protest, but it's not really a protest. But it's one of these people who they seem to be quite prevalent in the US, who have an opinion about something and they would like to share it with other people. And so you have this, and it's a take that you sort of go, what is it about this that sort of sums up your town? Is there something specific about this? You know, what's the question here? You know, is there because obviously we seem to be in like a farmer's market, something like that, and then you have this person walking with a hat, and you know, born again matters ideas, and you know, what is that? I was going to say what's that message, but it's not you know, it's not the message or stuff, but it's like I find like, how is this something about your town? And of course it might be part of a bigger picture, and that's something we often talk about, is this idea of like structure and narrative that comes through pictures. That we have a whole bunch going on, so we have a storyline, boom, 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 and they all work in sequence, so that, you know, as a whole. Because up until this point, what we've seen are photographs that generally are working as a single image. But thank you for popping that in. Okay, so M. Siegel, right? So it feels like it's photographed on film. And one of the things that I like, I love these lines coming, wee, or this kind of big bridge. I feel like I should know the name of this bridge, like it's quite a famous bridge. But again, let me know in the comments. The time of day is really nice. It feels warm, late afternoon. It's giving the beams a bit of dimensionality to them, which is like it was the middle of the day. It's just the shadows underneath. I don't think it'd be quite right, but because the sun's now coming in from the side, and quite strongly, like this way, it's creating these kind of cool double beam shadows, or these double shadows underneath the beams. And I quite like the softness of the image. I think it fits in with the time of day and the general vibe of the thing. But I'm going to say the same thing to you as I was saying to Bill earlier about the bridge, which is what's the personality of this bridge, right? You've got to you recognize that it's not just a bridge itself; it's like the whole thing. But what can we do? What can you do, rather, to tease it out, to show us what's going on? Because at the moment, it feels like you're kind of like you're halfway there. You've got like everything up here is a big tick, right? Everything down here still needs, like, I think a bit of work. Just something to make it feel a little bit more of a complete photograph, rather than, hey, this is kind of interesting, and I'm trying to let the whole thing take its course. Okay, M Wolf. All right, so what is it that we're looking for here, right? So I'm kind of seeing there what we've got. So it's the buildings, the architecture. You seem to be focusing towards the architecture. I think that's kind of like a cool thing. You know, you kind of you're photographing. This feels like, again, this feels like this is film, and I think, you know, if it's film, you've got a decent exposure for the base to work on, to make this photograph have a little bit more pop, a little bit more richer tonality. Not that you always need to have lots, and I don't mean like lots of contrast. We had this conversation last night in the TP tribe about contrast in photography, but just a little bit more reality, a little bit more sort of that tonality, especially on this building here and here. I think there's a lot. It's like you kind of, because they're so dominant in the frame, it feels like you know what you're trying to do, and you're trying to get, like, the buildings are symbolic of your town, and you're trying to put them in a place with some context, and it's just not quite landing. And I think maybe why is because you're photographing horizontally, right? So you've got horizontal, whereas if this is up, if you go up, show me these buildings, that dominate the landscape, and then the people in the plaza down below, and that would help you out. There is something here that I think you just need to be kind of a little bit mindful of. There's some motion blur, like camera shake going on. Not a lot, but it's enough. You see at the edges here, and that's not necessarily, I think, the lens, although the lens is not helping you here. But look at all this kind of stuff, right? These little lines. Just try and be mindful of your shutter speeds, just so you get like at least a not necessarily a sharp image, but an image that is devoid of camera shake, unless you want it. Okay. Right. Look at this. M Wong. Somebody's enjoying an ice cream, right? An interesting take on something unique to your town. I'm trying to look at this because I'm fascinated. Like that. Look at this building. What is this? This feels like it's in America, somewhere, like the palm trees or something like that. For lease, yeah. So there we go. But this is obviously a piece of public sculpture that is very interesting, and it would be very easy to just go, I'm going to photograph this interesting looking thing and have done with it. But you've gone a little bit further, right? You're getting some people in there. The lady with the ice cream, I think that's great because it would have been, again, simple to sort of go, look at me, I'm so clever, I've got some reflections there. But the fact she's got a nice one, so she's doing something. I really like that idea, and it's fascinating. Like you can see, I'm like jumping into picture. I'm trying to see what's in the reflections. But if we look at the image itself, I'm going to say about the cropping. I think that the photograph's all here, right? This stuff in the outside, the bit of the car and the dustbin and the palm trees. They're not adding anything to the picture. And I think it would be stronger if we kind of like if you were like tighter in on this, and so the whole photograph is just the reflections and stuff, because that would kind of make it like, oh, that's sort of weird. And then of course people who do know what this object is will go, oh, that's the squiggle thing, and then we're like, that's amazing, dig that. All right, so we have P. Bogdan using some Kentmere 400. Okay, so lots of film shooters and stuff. I always like to see. All right, so we've got a like the head. People, they're looking on their phones at this church, the tree in the background, and something I've mentioned in the channel in the past. So when we look at photographs, it's often beneficial to sort of just name the things in the pictures and go like, what have we got, right? So we've got a statue, a person, another person, a tree, a bench, church, buildings, another bench, another person, streetlight, and say which of these contribute to the image and which don't. And I'm going to guess from your title that you feel like these people, because they both feel like they're on their phones, like he's sort of looking, and the church and the tree and the bench. That's kind of what you were focusing on. So can we get rid of this? Can we get rid of her? Right? That might make the photograph stronger, because right now, what I'm doing is I'm looking at it, I'm going, like, you obviously have an idea and you're trying to do some layering through this image. You're trying to make it have a little bit more depth, a bit more interesting to it, rather than just like, oh, here's this statue of whoever this person is, and that's just kind of like enough, right? You're trying to go a little bit further with it, and I applaud that. I think that's, it's good. I think more of us should do it, and especially given that you're photographing on film, so you're not kind of like just like rattling through shots. You're taking your time. But there's something missing about it that I'm not quite grabbing the sense of what's going on. I think it might be just the compositional element, like everything seems to be put on top of each other. And if you are trying to layer things through, what's happening is that they are just, they're bunched up and they're not really kind of having their own space to work. Yeah, think about it for a little bit. Think, like, how can you revisit? Because that's the benefit of this, because these are all your hometowns. These are pictures that you can come back to and you can, try out. This definitely gives me a feeling like Holiday 77 or Menzies. So this is a British thing when people used to go on holiday to the things. And I'm actually, now I'm sort of looking at it, I'm sort of thinking this is like a postcard. 'Cause that building over there looks, or look at all this towers and things like that. Is this modern? Is this back in there? I'm trying to have a look at all the things to see if you get a feeling for it. But either way, look at those tankers on this thing. This is look at that scan. There's scans and next. There's definitely a mood here. There's definitely a feeling, and it is putting me in a place. It is, and I said at the beginning, Holiday 77. That's when they used to talk about, hey, where to go on holiday here in the UK. It's like a travel program, and look at these greens with this, the sort of open shadows, and everything just feels warm. It feels nostalgic. See how powerful the colors can be. The way that the sky is more cyan than blue. There's lots of green across the image. I dare say that there's a bit of magenta in the shadows, and it makes me feel evocative. It is evocative for me, and I think that's great. We often sometimes think like photographs don't necessarily need to be the most like in your face amazing thing ever, but just so long as they are like they make you feel something. That's also cool. So I like this. I'm going to assume this is an old scan from like back in the day. So in regards to like competition and things like that, I don't think as much. The thing that does kind of ickiness me is when we zoomed in on it, you can see there are like kind of scan lines coming through. It just, that kind of just, if there's a way for you to get rid of those or redo the scan or something like that, because I don't think it's necessarily on it might be on the leg. It might have gone through a dirty machine, and that was the rollers just leaving some marks on the legs. But there we go, pretty cool. All right. Oh dear, he's in trouble. This is what's gonna Ed Sleeper. Again, hometown. What does this tell us about his hometown? What are we looking at here? Two kids, two young adults. They're having a chat. This is. It feels like it's a baseball field or something like that. I think there's enough space around them. This is quite clearly, it feels like it's an intimate moment. Not a physical intimate moment, but like an intimate moment between the two of them, where he's thinking about his posture and the way that she's sitting there. It's not a joyous posture. And I think that's a positive thing. And the fact you've got enough space around them, there's a bit of a context. There's an empty field. There's some sort of sporting thing. Nobody's there. It evokes that sense of kind of, is he lost out on something? Was it the final game or something like that? There's some story. There's some aspect in there that I really like. And the fact you're taking it black and white, I think works quite nicely there as well, which is pretty cool. Okay, right, S. Willies. Back in, is this London? Feels like London, with the dustbins and stuff like that. Love it, again, very evocative, right? This is completely things. So the other image was quiet, it was still. This one, different kind of fish entirely. It's been raining, so so the light is bouncing off the colors of the colors are bouncing off the pavement. They're coming back. You've got these kind of figures in the back, which I'm not 100% sold on in there, but this bus, these lines coming through, it's that ghost-ish sort of city. So that's all very positive. I like that approach. It obviously it's not a unique approach, but if that's how you feel about your city, if that's a mood that conjures up your city, then go for it. Try that. Just do it. So looking at this, there's something when you've been processing it, something's gone a bit odd. If I look like up here, right, these bits, it feels like what you're doing is you're pulling down the highlights a lot, probably because that's sort of burning out because of the shutter speeds. If you can see the ones down here as well, I think that's burnt, and you try to pull it down, and you can see it goes that kind of weird gray color, and you have it there. There's one there. There's something like that. If you look at the picture and you go, that's not working for me, or you can see it's a problem and you're going to have to try and do it in post, you could ask yourself, much like we did when we looked at the statue with the face and the two people, it's like, how much of all this is contributing to the image? How much of this is contributing to the image? Because quite frankly, we're still left with the bit in the middle, which is perfectly fine. I don't feel personally that the image loses anything for you taking those things away. So there we go. And last but not least, T. Murphy, the Busy Bee Cafe. Again, we sort of come full circle, almost really, isn't it? The quietness, that stillness of a small town. It says Busy Bee, but it's probably nothing. And then because of the fact we can actually see you in there as well. Oh, hello. All right. That's pretty cool. I love the off-center composition here. Because this is the sort of thing that screams to me like, make it center, make it center, make it center, which is obviously my kind of approach. The color, the red of the door, the blue of the newspaper doodad thing, the deeper blue of the building, this wonderful color along the top of the thing, and the fact that this is like a tile wall. That's craziness. Now, it may be that there's some buildings to the left-hand side of the image that are not really, contributed. But I think that's great. I think that is I'm going to use the word brave here. It is a brave way of like composing things, because I think there'll be so many people look at this and go, but this needs something. It needs some space in there, right? And like a figure or somebody, just to make it work. But there you haven't. You've done that, and this is kind of one of those rare sort of moments that I like it, where it's like the image is split in half and everything's on the left. Normally that's kind of like you want to build balance and stuff, but for some reason it just works here. I love it. Again, not a huge amount in terms of like, oh, you could do something better or what have you. I think it's good as it is. It's really lovely. Thank you everybody for putting those in. I hope you enjoyed this look at these. And as I said, we do this every week in the TPE tribe. So thank you to all those people who sent through those pictures. I love them. I love talking about photographs in a very positive way. There's too much negativity around photography, I think. It's always like, what you haven't done, what you've done wrong. And each week in the TPA tribe, and there's a link in the description box below, we do this sort of thing. We have a little recap, and everybody's very supportive, and you'd like to see what we're all about, see if you'd like to be part of this tribe, then as I say, click on the link below. There's a 7-day free trial. There are almost 200 members, so maybe you will be member 200. Now, if you'd like to kind of explore taking photographs that make people feel uncomfortable, make them feel weird, then let's have a look at what Ralph is doing with his pictures. And the first thing that leaps out to mind is that there is nothing simple about the photographs. I'm a very big fan of simplicity in images. Like, this is exactly what the picture's about, and it's not open to interpretation. But this goes the other way. You have to be open to interpretation in this. You have to just throw lots of stuff at people for them to find their own ways around here. And Ralph's done this by using the masks, using the environment. So these are all, they're not just a juxtaposition of like, oh, look, here's somebody wearing a mask in what would have been a very, let's say, normal environment. These are not normal. This is derelict stuff. These are abandoned houses. These are broken down walls. All of this stuff is contributing to that sense of unease, of sort of weirdness in the photographs. You have the mask element, so there's something in there that's a little bit unsettling. Think about things that, unsettle people: phobias, spiders, snakes, clowns, water. Something that kind of makes people feel a little bit on edge. And then to heighten this feeling of disjointedness and stuff, that you kind of look at these, and the compositions are intentionally not compositions. They're like uncompositions. I hope that makes sense, right? So you think about it, it's like, he hasn't gone like, you have to have them on thirds and do all this sort of thing. They are just, they feel, look at this kid, look at that, right? That's just a weird photograph. And you could say, oh yeah, the dolls are the rule of thirds and stuff like that. But the subject, the child, off to one side, there's that unease, that unbalancedness that makes us as a viewer feel, wow, this is kind of a weird thing. And then of course, often you find in the photographs of quite a bit of shadow depth of field, but things being out of focus. A lot of the subject in these pictures are out of focus, deliberately so, because it makes it feel uneasy, it makes it feel weird. That there's shutter speeds quite slow, that there's half glimpsed ideas of things. And you combine that with those slower shutter speeds, so there's that motion, that movement, that haziness, the spectre out of the corner of your eye, and it all comes together in a way that just goes, oh, it makes me feel uneasy. And there's a whole section about Eugene Meatyard in the back of this book, which is called Dolls and Masks. And there are there's some really kind of cool names. There's one of his other books is called the Gallery of Lucibel Carter or something. They're amazing. check him out if you can. Unfortunately, and I do apologize, they're quite hard to get hold of-ish if you live outside of the States. But yeah, check him out. Thank you ever so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this look at Ralph Eugene Meatyard and your photographs, and we'll do it all again next week. See you then. Cheers. Bye.